Hello. Hi, Cupie. Just making sure I can see the chat on my phone while I'm in here. I like Skajuk, minus the J. I'm all puffy this morning. Use my ice. Hello, Maria. I wanted to talk today about crystals because there's a lot of debate about them. So I'll wait just a minute. I have a few things, a few stories to tell. At least one. Let me make sure I need one more website. Okay. Well, I guess there's enough here now. Nice to see you, Zach, QP, Maria. I'm trying to do this before MA does his. He does his like in an hour. So he keeps on stepping on me and I step on him. So I don't want to miss his stream. So I'm trying to do it now. And I was at the doctor's yesterday. So that's why I didn't go on. Actually, yeah, yesterday. That's why I didn't come on. I'd gone to see my rheumatologist. And, I don't have any of those nasty autoimmune diseases, which is, thank you. Thank you, Maria. Which is, nasty and not nice to have. Do have my Hashimoto's thyroiditis thing, which probably I've had for many years. And I have my fibro, which is pretty much under control, but I am feeling better. Feeling a little more energy, feeling like a human being again, which is like, yay, hooray. Yeah, my hair isn't this dark. It's just a dark room. It's a strawberry blonde more than anything. But I wanted to tell a story. I'm hoping, if they miss it, they miss it. That's not my problem. I have a rock here. Let me see if I can get I didn't bring an alternative light source, did I? Oh well. As you can see, it's nothing to write home about. It's just a type of quartz crystal. Nothing fancy. Got it at a place that I go to get rocks. The man that picks them is a retired civil engineer, and he knows his rocks. They have to. They have to know. They have to know a lot about minerals and rocks and sediments and stuff like that. So this is called celestial quartz, and you can see there's lots of imperfections in it. It's got a plane here. It's got a plane here. It's not the usual kind of quartz where you see it in points. See a lot of terrestrial quartz in points. This is supposedly found um, deep ocean areas. Supposed to be Atlantean, which, I have a hesitation to call it something like that. But it's considered a special stone. Okay, now I didn't know anything about this rock before my experience. I went to a place between here, a little around Vacaville, between here and San Francisco. It's called the Rock Shop, and it's just basically a little warehouse full of a lot of rocks, and they're not fancy, put on a fancy thing. They have a room where they have some special rocks that are on display for, to enjoy, to look at, not for sale. And this was quite a few years ago, and I'm not really that up on stones at the time. And I don't really have a lot of preconceived ideas. I come from a family. Yeah, how did I get stuck between a rock and a hard place? Well, that's where life puts you sometimes. But this is an celestial. I'll try to make sure my spelling's right on that. Crystal, and it has lots of fractures. Like I said, it's not attractive. It's not particularly attractive stone, Anyway, they have a room that they have a bunch of beautiful large stones that are on display. And I'm one of those people, I can't resist touching things. I'm a very tactile person. I have to feel things with my hands. I do that when I pick out fruit. I do that when I touch the fabric before I sew with it. I do that, I enjoy the tactile experience of planting things. I love touching stones. And usually, I come from a long line of rock hunters. We've always been rock hunters in our family. I don't know why. I guess because it's a cheap hobby. We would go out places and go have a picnic and go hiking and just pick up rocks, find rocks. And up in Washington State, there's a big area that's kind of a high desert sort of thing. And it has lots of agates. And I have cans of agates in my garage from those explorations. They're big. They're big size agates. Anyway, here I am just enjoying these stones, feeling a little high a little bit from being around these large crystals in this room. I can feel them. I'm just like, oh, this is nice. I like this. And there's this big, like this kind of rock. It's about the size of a soccer ball. And, I've been touching rocks all this time. No biggie. I said, oh, look at this one. Look at they have little ones and you just feel them and everything. Hi, Mindy. So good to see you. How are you, sweetie? Anyway, back to this crystal. This crystal is not pretty. It's, it's been fractured due to the pressure of the water on top of it, I guess, or maybe volcanic activity near it. I don't know the story. I'll have to look into it more. But there's this big soccer-sized ball of celestial crystal. It's supposedly Atlantean, all the, they give you these blurbs about, oh, this is this property, that property, blah, 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 And I just can't resist putting my hands on it, both hands, because I love the feel of stones on my hands. I just really do. Hi, Ghosty. Well, Mindy, my heart goes out to you, and I hope things get better for you in all ways. Okay? Always. Anyway, so I put my hands on this giant rock, not expecting anything, because, I was not really a proponent of stones and their energies. I mean, I liked them, but they're just pretty to me. I just, some of them I just love. I said, I love holding this one. I like this one, that sort of thing. Or, ooh, this is pretty. So I put both my hands on this rock. And I'm there with somebody. Who am I there with? Maybe my daughter, I don't know. Hi, Ghosty. I put my hands both on this rock, not expecting anything. What do you think happened? Any ideas? We spiritual type people are moving all those rocks. Yeah, I gotcha. I put my hands on this rock. And, we talk about, things, energies and stuff. I was immediately phased out or shifted out of my body slightly. I was no longer fully in body. I was slightly shifted out of my body and no longer touching the floor. I was like floating. And I'm just like I'm totally shocked. And I think that experience told me there's possibly something to energies of stones. I mean, I don't know if a little tiny stone wouldn't have done it to me. It just like when they knock me out for surgery, it takes a big mallet. So maybe it takes a really big stone for me to feel something like that. But it shifted me out of body. My astral form or my spirit wasn't completely in my physical form. And I was like knocked into a slightly different dimension. I don't know what was going on. But it was like, I'm just sitting there, my eyes big, and I'm going, what was that? And that was something I did not expect, because I've been touching stones, for the last hour without anything going on. So needless to say, I had to get one for myself, and I got this with a really good deal. This is a pretty good size piece. But I'm not going to hold it with both hands. I'm just saying. I am feeling a little floaty, just a little. So I'm going to put it down. Okay, now there's a lot of debate about stones, and I don't want to encourage the hype. I'd like to encourage a logical and intelligent discussion, if that's possible. But I do want to tell you about a study that was done. And now when I was going to school, we learned about studies and how they can be very bad studies or they can be very good studies. And that it's difficult to know what a good study is as to opposed to a bad one. Well, we learned how to tell. And I'm going to tell you about a study, and I want you to tell me whether this is a good one or not, just off the top of your head. Dr. Christopher French, a psychologist at Goldsmith College, London, set out to test the effects of crystals on 80 volunteers. Half were given a genuine New Age crystal for a few minutes while meditating. The rest were asked to handle a cheap plastic fake, but were told that it was a genuine article. They considered that control and blinding. The volunteers were also primed to notice any claimed effects from the crystals, with the researchers telling them that they should experience any number of benefits, the suggestion. These included tingling, more focused attention, balanced emotions, a rise in hand temperature, increased energy levels, improved sense of well-being, relaxation of the forehead, stimulation of the brain, increased swallowing reflex, and activation of all levels of consciousness, it talks about. Only 6 out of the 80 failed to experience at least one of these sensations. The most common sensations reported were warmer hand and increased concentration, which could easily be explained by much more plausible means, such as increased blood flow to the hand due to squeezing, or increased concentration due to meditation techniques. More importantly, Dr. French found no difference in the sensations reported by those holding a real quartz crystal and those given a fake. Believers in crystals were more than also twice as likely to report a sensation than self-professed skeptics. Dr. French also looked at how susceptible the volunteers were to suggestion and hypnotism. He found that believers were far more susceptible to suggestions than the skeptics. So basically what he's saying, that this is all power of suggestion, placebo effect, and that sort of thing. That crystals do not work beyond the placebo effect. Okay. Do you see anything glaringly wrong about that study? Number one, he had too small a test sample. 80 people's not enough. Number two was he gave them a real crystal, but he gave them crystals. And anybody who's alive that's reasonably well read is going to know that about the hype about crystals. Okay, so the whole idea that giving them a cheap fake or the real article was a control and blinding move is erroneous. Plus, they make a suggestion about the feelings they may feel, which is a suggestion. It has nothing to do with the stone. So of course he found no difference in the two groups. It was a horribly skewed biased study. It's like, if you really wanted to do that, you'd have more people. You would put the crystal in a ball that couldn't be seen or something like that, where they wouldn't know what it is. You wouldn't tell them it's a crystal. And you wouldn't tell them what they should expect to feel. I mean, I read this, I said, you've got to be kidding. That was the most biased study I've ever heard of. I said, are they out of their minds? They're not going to find out anything. Because, when you're in a study, you want to please the people that are doing the study on you. And if you know what they want you to feel, you can create that through a placebo effect. We can psych ourselves out to feel almost anything. That's why when I touched that crystal, not expecting anything, because I'd been touching crystals for, the last hour, picking them up and oohing and awing over them, and no big deal. And I saw this one, I'm going, oh, big crystal, I'll touch that, and didn't expect anything. Okay. Oh, yeah. You have to be careful with studies. And I know Facebook is rampant with studies. Oh, this study says blah, blah, blah. This study says that. And we see all these studies about cholesterol, and they're all conflicting. Studies about salt, studies about this and that. And it's very difficult to figure out which study makes any sense at all. Okay. I think probably when it comes to crystals, the hype and the reality, that the hype and the anti-hype, whatever, it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know that they're as powerful as some say, and I don't think they're as weak as some say. I think that there's such an individuality regarding stones. Now we know crystals, like quartz crystals, can store information. That's why, you'll see these haunted locations if they have a lot of different kinds of stone in the bedrock that will like retain energy and and maybe memory. You'll see these time loop kind of ghosts that repeat over and over, and they're like a little movie that's been recorded in the earth itself. Um, so there has to be, the idea is like on Judy Hall reveals the underpinnings of crystal work. She says how crystals work, the science of crystal healing. And she says no one can yet say categorically how crystals work, although there have been many suggestions based on vibrational resonance in the water and crystalline content of the human body. Um, what is clear is that crystals have an energy field that interacts with any other energy field near it. Now we know that there's something going on. And they've even done some Kirlian camera work with stones and found interesting, pictures. Um, now there's a stone called kunzite. It contains lithium, which is used for doctors to medicate for depression and bipolar disorders. Crystal users hold kunzite or place it on their heart and feel uplifted. Now that could be placebo effect, or there might be something to it. And they say the copper content of malachite alleviates arthritic discomfort. We know that copper, a lot of people will wear a copper bracelet for arthritis. And, copper is supposed to be very disinfecting and healing. There's someone named Michael Geiger. Crystals are actually an information system that radiates energy. Now, how powerful are they? I don't think that's easy to define. I have a piece of what they call angelite. It's kind of a light blue. It's hard to tell the color a little bit. I just think they're pretty. I love stones. I love having stones. I like wearing semi-precious stones. But I mean, you can look up anywhere. I'll leave links here on what kind of stones they recommend to try. I wouldn't put a lot of money into it first. Just, go somewhere where you can even order them on Amazon, and some of them are pretty reasonable. Anyway, Ghosty says, while Zach says, could the stone be a sort of conduit amplifier that allows us to focus and distribute our energies? Very possible. Very possible. I think that closing the door on any possibilities is not a good idea because, let's face it, the scientists have kind of an issue with this. Yet, a lot of different areas of science use crystals all the time. It's almost like they don't want us fiddling with them. Like maybe they're too dangerous or something. I don't know. Ghosty says, I once picked up a quartz and so much was in it, it bent the rings I was wearing and my watch died. When struck with a pin, it sparked, etc. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you've seen stones under black light, how some of them will have some pretty wild colors. Of course, you took that baby home. I have some. I think it is kunzite. Well, there's a stone that you're supposed to use to help uh, EMF, help block EMF, around you. Um, but it's a little disturbing, when you really want science to look at things and they just categorically say, no, it's all in your mind. Although the placebo effect isn't a bad idea. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But they start talking about unified field theory and all that. God, I have my son Don talk to us about quantum physics. He knows more than I do. They talk about consciousness and everything. There's all kinds of websites. It's like everywhere. Okay, now there's another site that says scientific evidence that crystal healing helps, works, not hurts. Oh, geez, I'm really awake. It talks about crystals. Quartz crystals enable data storage. We know about that. LCD stands for liquid crystal display. Crystals are used in screens of many electronic devices. Silica dioxide is a naturally occurring element used in electronics. And then this one guy, Marcel Vogel, talks about luminescence at IBM. He worked for IBM San Jose, where my brother-in-law used to work, for 27 years. He attained 32 patents for his inventions, including a magnetic coating for 24-inch hard drives, phosphor technology, and liquid crystal systems. Well, we know that crystals all have a matrix, a shape, a grid, various times that they can. Hi, Simon. That's fine. Simon's back has been giving him trouble. Send him some love, would you? Just keep him in your thoughts. He's been suffering. Aquamarine's a pretty stone. I have several Udemy classes that I can start working on when I want to, and one is on shaman stuff, Muna Key's shaman stuff, and she uses various stones in a grid thing to manipulate energies. So, but I mean, if you look at the crystalline structure of stones, because minerals have these very, very stable, usually stable structures. We're not talking the weird stuff at the bottom of the elements of the chart. And so they each have a unique system of the atoms, but they are by no means really solid. Nothing is really solid. Things have more space. Even what things we perceive as solid have more space than they have atoms. So on Remedy Groove, I was talking about Vogel's research. He says this: the crystal is a neutral object whose inner structure exhibits a crystalline state of perfection and balance when it is precisely cut to the proper geometric form, and when the human mind enters into a relationship with its structural perfection in the vibration of love, the crystal emits a vibration which extends and amplifies the power and grasp of the user's mind. Image through intent is amplified. And I think that is probably the secret of crystals, is that they work with our energies and our intent. When we do Reiki in our Reiki meeting, we're not allowed to use anything else but Reiki. So, if we have any stones in our hands, we're not allowed to have any kind of stone or anything like that. So, they can interfere with things as well as amplify things. So, but the rule is when you do Reiki, you only do Reiki. Although some forms of Reiki do use crystals to enhance. Sometimes I'll hold a crystal to represent the person I'm distance healing. There's a question on Stack Exchange, physics.stackexchange.com. Any scientific basis behind crystal energy? Question or statement. Is there any scientific basis in crystal energy, or is it purely metaphysical pseudoscience? Answer is photons can travel through a crystal, so it can be a medium for energy to travel through, but that isn't exactly energy storage. Well, now, that's like contradicting how quartz crystals can store energy right there. I mean, they conflict themselves all the time. And, that's because in science, we have people that are a little more open-minded than others, more well-read, and more maybe done some studies. And, people are discussing this, that, they're saying, this is a physics site, I'm closing the discussion. And, this is like, that's scientific, that's a science's attitude about this sort of thing. It's like, it's not really physics, so we're not going to talk about it. You make your own organites. Is that when you put the different stones in the plastic with minerals and stuff? I've seen those done online. Is that what you're talking about, Ghosty? They're usually triangular shaped or round. I've seen jewelry kind of made into organites. I'd love to have one. So here you have, science and the rest of us. Now, I don't want science to change. I want them to be reliable and exacting and, asking the right questions and logical and embracing the truth as much as possible. But I also want them to ask the questions they're afraid to ask and see if they can find an answer without the incredible bias they have. Because I would like to know, what is going on. And, if it's all placebo, that I find that hard to believe that it's all placebo, because I certainly didn't expect that rock to shift me out of phase, to make me out of my body where I'm not touching the floor anymore, where I am not in my body. I did not expect that. I didn't have preconceived ideas. This was way before I was, I was just a rock hound at that time. Explain that to me. Explain it to me. Don't just say I'm out of my mind. And there's one website called healingcrystalsforyou.com. High crystal energy stones use the power of high vibration crystals. Now you'll see places like this that really, are on the bandwagon for crystal healing. And this page talks about stones with a higher vibration. Now we talk about vibration, frequency, and a lot of the stuff. It's like, that study talked about, he called them a genuine New Age crystal. Who calls them genuine New Age crystals? The whole label of New Age has a bias already, just to call it that. Because none of this is new. It's basically insulting people that were into Eastern philosophy. And I mean, I know there are people that go way off the deep end in this area, but anyway, that's just my opinion. But this page talks about stones with a higher vibration that are powerful aids to move you forward in life. Now, that's a big assumption there. And, so you see, the extremes, where there's nothing to it and then it's, cure all for everything. It says Herkimer diamonds and moldavite are two of the group of high-frequency crystals. They're easy to obtain, and they're both a very high frequency. Now, moldavite is glass, this greenish glass, usually found in Russia, that is from a meteor hitting or something like that. It's kind of ugly. I do have a piece of it. Yeah, you use acrylic. Go see. Oh, if you could take some pictures of those sometime and put them in one of the Hangout chats, would be awesome. I'd love to see. Do you put like copper wire in them and everything and stuff like that? I know some people put copper in them. Copper's an interesting mineral. Anyway, so moldavite, they call it the Holy Grail stone. I'm not sure why they call it that, but I'll put these websites up. But I mean, there's one of my favorite stones is turquoise, for example. I like quartz crystal. Why I like them, I don't know. Okay. Now, I do have a site here that talks about the 10 most powerful, non-toxic, easy to obtain, affordable crystals, because, it can get pricey. It can get pretty pricey how expensive they are. Moldavite can come in all the colors. I've only seen green. I bow to your better knowledge on that. Where is it? Okay, let me tell you the 10 most powerful crystals. Angel wing calcite is one. Quartz. Now, angel wing calcite says connects you to the angel realms and fills your crown chakra with white light. And this person says, I was skeptical about this. It is ordinary calcite. But once I had it in my hands, I recognized that this was no ordinary calcite. Extremely high vibrational calcite of divine light. Another one is quartz. That's why, if you go around to a place or something, like Ghosty says, you pick them up and you feel them. And if it wants to come home with you, it'll tell you, I guess. Apophyllite. One that's interesting is selenite, which is a hard mineral version of gypsum. It's supposed to bring in light and open up the crown chakra, clear blockages. And I was given a little wand of that by a friend of mine. Celestine. This is what this is. This is the Celestine. It's called angelite sometimes, but it's a very pretty stone. And it's bluish. Raised consciousness, great aid in meditation. Orthoclase. That may be what this is. This may be the official name for this, because the picture they show here is very similar. It's a type of quartz. And it's very strong. And then that was this, this is a type of moonstone. So this is a quartz. So this isn't that. Unless I'm looking here. garnet, amazonite, pyrite. Yeah, I have a lot of these house stones, but my house is a bit in disarray. Maybe we'll do another thing and I'll show you my rocks. Come up and see my rocks. Really, I mean, there's so much reading you can do. And it talks to this site talks about, it's called livescience.com, crystal healing HTML. And of course, what study do they bring up? That incredibly biased, flawed study saying it was all placebo effect. First thing they bring up is, I mean, I'm embarrassed for the scientific community for even mentioning this study. It is so bad. It's a horrible study. And I was like going, wow. Really? Anybody with any training in reading studies would see immediately all the things wrong with it. We need some real studies that are truly double blind, where you put the stone in a ball you can't see, and you just tell them, would you meditate with this for so many minutes and tell us what your experience was without any suggestions, and let them come up with the words. You don't tell them what words to come up with. You don't give them the suggestion. If you really want to find out what's going on, you need to be completely double blind. Completely. It's just like a lot of studies where they come out and say, oh, eggs are bad for you, then all of a sudden eggs aren't bad for you. It's because they were poorly done. The whole idea that butter was bad for you was basically done by people that were promoting margarine. You've got to look at who's paying for it. You've got to look at who benefits from the results. And then there's a website and the benefits of being in a higher energy of vibration. And then there's one called the Crystal Crash. Let me try that again. Crystal Crash Course, a beginner's guide to healing crystals. And it talks about how to choose a crystal, and I just go and look at crystals and see what one feels good in my hand, which one says, come take me home, So Gosi says she has moldavite in green, blue, and yellow. Nice. Yeah, I know. They can be very pricey. That's why I go to the one near me where the engineer husband of the woo-woo lady, she's the one that runs the place. He's the one that gets the minerals, though, so I know at least they're the real deal. He says he's very careful. I know. It's like, so you go to these scientific sites and they keep pulling up that one study. There's only one study? Seriously? And it's flawed? They have spoken. End of story. That's pretty pathetic. Hi, Paul. How are you? Yeah. Yeah, they have a thing where they put different stones on the chakras. I wasn't... that's one of the healing... Some of the things that they do when they heal is they'll take a crystal and wave over your chakra points, or they'll have you lay down and they'll put a different stone in each chakra. The stones that have to do with that particular chakra. Let's see if there we go, chakra stones. Okay, the root chakra stones, now you can just carry them around. If you know anything about chakras, we should have a talk about those sometimes, because it's interesting. Now, that's an very old belief system from the Eastern philosophies. And a lot of people think it's all baloney, and, they can think what they want. But I can honestly tell you I've had some interesting experiences. I've had my heart chakra burn When I meet a person that I know, my spirit knows this person and cares a lot about this person, my heart chakra will burn, and it'll be a little overwhelming sometimes, but it's spirit telling me, pay attention to this person and get to know them. It's basically telling me that. Root chakra stones, and I'll tell you what they are. They're bloodstone, tiger's eye, hematite, fire agate, black tourmaline. Okay, that's down by the tailbone, by the privates. The root chakra is the area of your energy system that supports you in life. And if you're really unbalanced and you have a sense of survival issues, that that life is really being difficult for you, the root chakra is the one that you need to work on. If you really feel, because any structure is only as good as what supports it. So if your chakra, the root chakra, is really having trouble, you work on that rather than the higher ones. It's like I was talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't have your basics covered, you can't do the rest. So if you really have survival issues or things like that, where you just feel like life is bouncing you around and beating you up, perhaps working on that root chakra will help. The sacral chakra, see, the root chakra is like the tailbone. It's really way down there. Sacral chakra is more higher up with the womb, the hip bones, that area. And you should use citrine, carnelian, moonstone, or coral, it says. Now, the solar plexus is right in the gut. Now, I know science is now starting to see that we have a lot of neural connections in our gut area, that we basically have another kind of brain in our gut. That's why you have a gut feeling. That's also why when you hear terrible, terrible news, it feels like someone's punched you in the gut. There's a lot of intelligence in that part of our body. I know it sounds crazy. The mesentery is now there, that they've discovered recently. Time shifting being what it is. But the solar plexus, I mean, if you feel like you've been punched there, that can be a very unpleasant feeling. And they suggest malachite, calcite, citrine, and topaz. Personally, if you can meditate just 5 minutes a day, you get a meditation program that does a visual, meditation, or you just say Om or whatever kind, just 5 minutes of just detaching from the world will improve all of your chakras. It'll improve your whole energy system because, we get bombarded so much, our energy system needs a break. And I think meditation helps us do that. So the solar plexus, when you feel insecure there, that's not good. The heart chakra, rose quartz, jade, green calcite, and green tourmaline. Now, I love rose quartz. I love jade. Jade is one of my favorite stones. Like I said, you can feel burning there when you meet somebody significant. That tells you this person. This is somebody important to you in another life or in spirit side or whatever. Then you have your throat chakra. Now, for a long time, my throat chakra was closed. So that's why I talk too much now. So I'm sorry if I talk too much. But it's been a long time since I've done much talking. Certainly not this much talking, ever. Not for many, many years. Opening that helps you speak your truth. Helps you stand up. I think it's a real big part of your boundaries. And lapis lazuli, turquoise, and aquamarine, they're all blue. And I love all three of those stones. They're just so pretty. Now, the third eye, and you've had them crack, Ghosty. I'll tell you a story about that too. Third eye, that's, right here. Amethyst, purple fluorite, and black obsidian. When I meditate on a regular basis, my third eye opens and I have visions while I'm meditating. And then I do art to illustrate them so I don't forget them. The crown chakra is here, which is selenite, clear quartz, amethyst, and diamond. Now, amethyst is an interesting stone. It's an amplifier. So if you're having a lot of unpleasant stuff going on, I wouldn't carry amethyst around. It'll give you more of what you have. Selenite's nice. Clear quartz is nice, but I'd avoid amethyst until you're feeling a little better. But let me tell you, rose quartz is nice. Now, I have friends that worked at the DMV that are in my Reiki group, and they said they would take a piece of rose quartz and put it under a seat, the chair, tape it under the chair of a person that was being kind of crabby and cranky and unpleasant and difficult to work with, and it would mellow them right out. I don't know if that's ethical or not, but it didn't hurt them, right? I thought that was kind of fun. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh my goodness. So, Paul, you knew you lived each other even though you lived 2,400 miles apart. Oh, that's a beautiful story. Yeah, you kind of know when someone's special, don't you? It's nice that you were able to get together, though, because you are, able to get together. You're not still 2,400 miles apart, I hope. I had a quartz tip. You know those little quartz tips that you can wear on a necklace that have a little thing at the top, and then they're like a point? It's about this long. And it was, I think it was rutilated quartz. It has a mineral in it. You are together? Oh, that's wonderful. So happy for you, Paul. Bless you. Anyway, this was before I got Reiki to help control my natural healing ability. It was embarrassing. The things that energy would do would zap people and knock them off their chair, and they would be like 1,000 miles away. That's why energies don't have the limit of time and space. I thought I was some kind of monster. I really did. I thought, what the hell am I? Having been in the Mormon church for so long and finally separated from my husband, separated from the church, and all this energy when I separated from my husband that he'd been using to feel better came back to me all at once, and I was not ready for that. Anyway, I had this necklace, and I was talking to a man who was a Strega witch. He was an Italian solitary witch, and he was an interesting guy. Kind of a different kind of person, and I zapped him. And he was like so angry with me because I was chatting, online with him, and I zapped him, and he was just furious. How dare you do this to me? And I'm going, do what? And then he said, you didn't do that on purpose? I said, no. Can you help me? And he says, well, first he gave me the rules and regulations of psychic contact. I said, okay. And then he said, by the way, you opened up my third eye, which has been closed for 10 years. Thank you. Oh, this happened. Oh, different people. About 8 times. Different people. No, I've never touched an old spearhead. Now, I have had some interesting experience with psychometry. Paul, try to be kind. You have to be kind with those people less aware than you, okay? Choose kindness. You don't want karmic debt, right? Be kind to those lesser aware than you. Anyway, about this crystal, I was wearing it, and one time after we got to know each other, we chatted, and he was he'd had some really tragic things happen in his life. One of his children had been murdered, and I mean, it's just horrible things. Now, the solitary witch, he's an Italian Strega witch, and they aren't good or bad. They kind of on the fence there. They're good unless you do something bad to them. Then they will get even, which I think is really bad idea. Just personally, I think it's a bad idea. Well, I'm wearing this crystal point, and I'm in the bathroom washing my hands. All of a sudden, I hear this ping, and the crystal popped apart. And I'm just like holding it two pieces. I mean, it just ping fell apart. And my friend, the witch guy, told me that I had to apologize to the stone, go out on a full moon and bury it and ask forgiveness. Because apparently my energies broke that baby in two. So there you go. I was in a meetup group with some friends of mine. A lot of them were Reiki practitioners. We would do a meditation, then we did a practice on psychometry. And one of the gals there was very psychic, and she brought in a friend. I brought something that was a friend of mine that passed away, and she channeled that person, wrote it all down. I swear that was so accurate. It was like creepy, but it was wonderful. Anyway, I'm holding this dog tag. Obviously it's a dog. That's not hard to figure out. But then I saw the dog in my mind. It was a golden retriever, and that the message was it was a very excitable dog, very excitable, just really happy dog. And the message to its owner, because it had passed, was wag more, bark less. And I thought that was a funny thing because I'd heard that expression. And I told her, she says, that's exactly, I described the way the dog was, what it looked like. She says, you're exactly right. So the psychometry, picking up energy, if you can pick up an energy from an inanimate object and get some kind of a vision from it, what do you think crystals can do? I mean, science doesn't want to talk about it. And it's like, okay, just don't do studies that are wrong and convince people that it's all baloney. Because that's not right either. It's not right to lie with your fake statistics either. But if you're going to do a study, do one that makes sense, that's repeatable. A study is no good if it's not repeatable and peer reviewed, okay? Has to withstand the scrutiny of other scientists in how it was done. And that study, no way. It would have had so many strikes against it, not even funny. Not even funny. So I go to the Goodwill and stuff, and I like to get things, but I always touch them first. And I clear them if there's anything. I haven't had any trouble with anything with crystal or anything I brought home, because I clear it with Reiki and my hands and visualization and whatever. So I've never had any trouble. But if you pick up something, I'll pick up something and I'll just say, no, not taking that home. Museums. Oh, museums. I love museums. I really do. I was in Los Angeles with my son and my granddaughter and my daughter-in-law. We were in the Natural History Museum, which are the awesomest. And they had, I'm walking around enjoying myself, and they had a little display of Aztec artifacts. Now, some of these artifacts were facsimiles. Some of them some of it were genuine. Okay, they do mock-ups, of course. So here I am, walking through the museum, minding my own business, just enjoying myself by myself. I walk into this little area where they have the Aztec crystals, and I'm immediately sick to my stomach. And because some of this stuff was used in sacrifice and stuff, and it's like I felt sick. I could not get away from that stuff fast enough. And I'm fascinated by Mesoamerican history and artifacts, and I'm fascinated by it, and it's like it made me sick. Made me literally sick. I love museums though, but I have to remember to carry something that'll ground me in my pocket, like obsidian or some black stone or tourmaline, or wear hematite or something, so that the energies of the objects doesn't whammy me. And I know it's, my kids know I'm like this. They know that mommy's the woo-woo one, the weird one, the strange one. But, I laugh and laugh because they think I'm crazy, but I know that it's hereditary. Oh, yeah, Paul, we find out, about what our particular abilities are, our particular gifts, our particular curse we might have. I'm vulnerable to people that will use my energy for their own personal gain. It's very difficult to have a good relationship when you're a person who's a healer and a giver, because people will take and not give anything back. That's the kind of people a lot of times I attract. So I have to be careful about who I let close. So, for many years, I didn't let anybody close because it's like, no. Getting to know me too much, and I've had to overcome that. Then you went to a museum in Glasgow. There's places I want to go to the UK so badly because I want not only to do some genealogy, but just to see the places of the history was so old. X was into crystals, they didn't work. Well, there's no guarantee a crystal's going to work for you. I think it has to do with our particular abilities, and whether or not we have the placebo effect that's powerful enough, if that's the case, what the scientists say. But I really do think they do have the energy, because when I picked up that baby, or when I picked this up, I knew this is the one that wanted to come home with me. And when I touched that one in that rock shop that was this big, and I felt that way, that was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't do that I can't do that to myself on purpose. I can't shift myself out of my physical body at will like that. That was bizarre. Aztec whistles sound like humans screaming. Oh my God. Yeah, energy vampires. I want to go to Stonehenge too. I want to go when they allow you to get close to it. Now, Stonehenge, there's some interesting things about that. There's, that's for another day. We're running over time here. We don't want to step on MA's stream, as he's going to be getting on in a few minutes. Yeah, Stonehenge is a whole nother topic. And it's, so if you want to work with crystals, I put up the websites and you can decide for yourself if there's anything to it. And if for some reason it helps you feel better, it's not going to hurt, Or if you just like the feel of them, if you just enjoy having them around. Now, there's one thing I'm not a big fan of, and that's I went to a meetup where this guy does this crystal grid thing that you get sit inside, and the house was full of crystals. And there was one room full of crystal skulls, and they had all these big crystals all over the place. And it's like I went there, and I was sick for 3 days afterwards. And I just said to myself, they need to cleanse those crystals. You have to remember that if you have crystals and you use them a lot, you need to put them out in moonlight or sunlight or salt water or something. I know the sun's not the same, moon's not the same, maybe, but I mean, just find some way to cleanse them. Salt water sometimes works. Intention, I think, works too. So, yeah, it made me sick. Those crystals. I'm not a fan of crystal skulls because of that. I said those things made me, and it could be because the Aztec artifacts made me feel sick. So maybe that was like a past life thing, that the crystal skulls are associated with South America or Middle America, Mesoamerica. I don't know. Either that or she just had a lot of bad energy that had soaked up into the crystals. She had these big, huge quartz and amethyst crystals that may have soaked up a lot of people's negative vibes if they have meetups there a lot. Oh, wow. Those whistles sound horrible. They would do these sacrifices whenever they had like some kind of like a drought or something. They thought that would fix it. It's like, oh, horrible. Well, I'll have to say goodbye for now. And I will put up a whole bunch of websites, and you go ahead and investigate, find out if there's something that you like, find out if there's anything that you want to get. Go rock hunting and find your own rock. There's always that. You can go rock hunting, and if a rock says, pick me up, you can pick it up. There's some places, though, that it's not legal to do that, of course. But, make sure you do whatever you do legal. Didgeridoos. Now, we can talk about didgeridoos sometime and an experience. They do didgeridoo healing with the vibration over your auric field. And I tell you, that's an experience all in itself. It's like, whoa. So I'll say good night, goodbye, and good morning, wherever you are. And thank you for tuning in, and keep asking questions. Okay, I'd say good night or goodbye. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, keep learning, keep investigating. Don't take one answer as the only answer. Goodbye. You saw a real crystal skull and was sick for a month. Yeah, I don't know how people can handle those crystal skulls. It's like, especially the real deal. It's just like, ooh, no. You all take care now. Thank you for coming. Bye.